Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I have a special podcast guest today. I'm excited to be here with her. I'm here chatting with Beth Lynch today. And just to share a little bit about her, Beth is a spiritual medium, meditation teacher, and an author. As a heart, mind, body, spirit educator, she shows how spirituality is the missing link in mental and emotional wellness. She has, for over 28 years now, she has helped families understand their grief and themselves. She's had her own personal experiences since childhood, for the death of her parents, and her search for healing and higher understanding led her to understand her sensitivity as a strength. Her ability to connect to loved ones that have crossed over has inspired and helped many understand life, death, and the in between, showing the power of understanding intuition, creativity, communication, and internal life. Beth is a graduate of Delphi University of the Spiritual Studies, the Arthur Ford School of Mediumship and Metaphysics, and she is certified under Mark Ireland's Respected Mediums. Thank you very much for joining me, Beth. That is quite a list of experiences you've had and accomplishments.
Yeah, and they started in the early 90s, so it took, it was time. Not all at once, right? Well, thank
Very
you for
cool.
having me. I'm excited. I'm excited because of where we've come. So I think, that's a cool
Absolutely.
story too in itself. And
Absolutely. So I first got connected with Beth. I took her Inner Light practitioner's course back in like 2011. And it was really for me what started my journey with connecting with my own spirituality, finding my way to meditation, and leading me to other modalities that I've picked up along the way, like Reiki and meditation and tapping and intuitive work. And it's funny, I got thinking about this earlier when I was thinking about our podcast. And in one of my sessions with you, I don't think it was in the class, but in one of my individual sessions with you, I remember you asking me, "Do you do Reiki?" And this was way before I even thought about getting into it. And here we are, over 10 years later, well established
well,
in all of that. So I love that our connection has led to quite a bit of things. So
it has. And it's, I'm proud of you and honored because I do remember when you were really just, putting your toes in the water there a little bit, and now you're helping so many, and I love watching you on your social media and just watching you help people transform as well as a heart, mind, body, spirit educator yourself. So you
very
know
cool. Well, thank you.
yeah, so be proud of yourself.
Thank you. So, do you want to share a little bit about your journey and maybe just a few key pieces along the way that have brought you to your passions today?
Sure. A lot of it, as many of us and many people, whether they're in this, profession or not, or passion or whatever we call it, sometimes I can't call it work, but um, is we go through a sensitivity of emotions. We have this sensitivity. It's overwhelming. We also get to a place of, we're so empathic and it's so hard being empathic. But what I've learned along the way is empathy is a natural, compass for us to trigger our intuition. But of course, when you're going through life experiences, and often it will be the death of a loved one that or two that brings you to this, okay, I got to know what's up. I got to know, why am I here? Or why is God doing this? And what, all those questions that get asked in grief. And I know mine was based on the night my dad had passed 3 years before, and I had my own feelings around that week too. But my mom's death, she was killed on the Amtrak crash in 1993. I woke from a dream that night hearing over an intercom system, and basically, um, I could see gray walls and people going, and I could hear over the intercom system that she was dead. And of course, I started screaming in the dream and crying. And I woke up and I could tell I was very shook up. And I remember going, what kind of dream was that? And I looked at the clock and it was 3:15 a.m. And whatever. Next thing I know, I'm back to sleep. I find that interesting. I think they knocked me out actually. And I woke up and I had my nephew and he was little. I was bringing him to daycare or something. And then I turned on the car radio at 7 a.m. and it was on the news, a train crashed in the middle of the
Oh,
night. Now all of a sudden my dream comes back to me and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. So like all these things happened. I heard her voice in the car tell me she was all right. That was probably my knowing of she didn't make it. And at that point, there were no real details, how many lived, how many didn't, all that. So all that, just like the physical world red tape had to still happen, and then me and my sister a year later, went to a medium, even got that appointment by chance. Somebody called and said, I can't go to mine. Why don't you two go? So we went and she told me in that the medium looked right at me and said, young lady, you're not using your gifts and abilities. And someday you're going to do what I do. And I'm looking at her thinking in my head, this lady's crazy. I really thought that. And a few other things. I'm like, no, 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 that can't be me. But here I sit. And then, the curiosity and your mother will guide you to your books and teachers' comments of like, what does that mean? So that was my catapult. Like, okay, get ready, slingshot. You're
Yep.
going. Little did I know. And it did. The steps were gentle. It began with tarot a couple weeks later, seeing someone taught private classes. Well, that intrigued me. Something made me feel I want to do it. I didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, tarot. I do know now it's very good and it's a beautiful spiritual illumination and way to learn symbols and trust your own, third eye visions. And that's where all of this is coming through, whether we're professional in it or personal, our personal world, anybody's.
Hmm.
So, those doors opened for me. Boom, 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 boom. And then all of a sudden it was time to put down the hair scissors and devote to it, and the whole story there. But, I feel through the hardest of life experiences, I've gotten to where I am,
Yeah.
and I think that's what teaching people that it's through these emotions that are the most hardest and grief being probably one of the lowest, that we're going to learn the most about ourselves. And we have to
Absolutely.
trust that flow. But that's kind of what got me here. And now it's just what evolves as I go along, writing,
Absolutely.
putting it together for people, teaching, and being on podcasts. Thank you. In
I
a
love,
nutshell.
right? I love the journey of it, and I love the notion of how you can reflect back on witnessing, okay, this was a little nugget that was given to me and I listened to my intuition and leaned into it, even
Hmm.
though you didn't know, and how many times throughout your journey that happened. And I also love how you give people permission to feel all the feels and to lean into the emotions, because there is something behind that. There is something that we can learn when we can slow down and move through them with grace and forgiveness or love or whatever that is. And there's a piece of ourselves that gets to be stronger on the other side. And your journey is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. And
Very
you
cool.
said a key word, forgiveness.
Hmm.
I find that a lot of people, and I'm sure you do too, and who you work with, that sometimes it's as big as you got to forgive God because God isn't doing these things to us. This is a human expression. We are in the consequence of human conditions and choices and then even those around us. So when you look at this in the bigger picture, your intuition, trusting it and slowing down enough for it, it's a survival mechanism. It isn't
Yes.
just spirit world. That's definitely the umbrella of it all with no top, you know what I mean? But it's for our survival down here as a human
Yeah.
being and
Yep.
to navigate us through the most hardest emotions. And I think you'll agree with me that as a species, we've kind of lost, I wouldn't say or we probably wouldn't be sitting in this position, but people do not allow themselves to feel emotion that is hard. And
Yes.
little do they realize some of these outside ways of not feeling those things are blocking them from feeling the beautiful things, the divine things, you know?
Exactly. So
And you've
much.
got to, it's necessary. And it's, again, it comes back to trusting it and being our inner compass in our physical world. Stop separating it.
Yep.
It is one, and you don't have to be, I'm this way, but your spirit is, and this is something I love to share with people, and it's in my books that I've written and things that I talk about in classes and all. Your spirit or your spiritual nature is your intuitive nature, your creative nature, your compassionate nature, your how you communicate, how you cope emotionally, and how you're connected. It's like all these C's in a way. And if we don't have that in our personality, we're a fish out of water. That's called depression. That's where mental wellness and well-being comes into play, which, you know, needs to be looked at more professionally, I think, in that profession of that, to look at it like it's a nature of who we are. It's an aspect of
Mhm.
consciousness. It's science. It's And I think you'd agree that,
Yeah.
the dangers of not trusting what you feel and allowing yourself to feel it is really creating a lot of what's happening in the mental wellness of people around us.
Yeah. I feel like people are shutting down that conversation with themselves and that inner dialogue and, like you said, that inner spirit. And I love how you touched base with the notion that listening to our intuition and listening to that inner dialogue is actually a survival skill. Because one of the things that I've noticed within my work is that people are kind of stuck in that fight or flight response. And it's almost like a passive fight or flight response, and they're stuck in it. And the idea of shifting it from surviving to allowing yourself to thrive and inviting in some of those
Mhm.
pieces of who you are and what the expression is, and having a full gamut of options to explore the emotions and what they mean and how they work in what they're telling you, and
Mhm.
having the whole toolbox available versus one specific way or one specific section.
Mhm.
And
That's beautifully put.
I love the notion that our intuition gets to be a survival tool just as much as our fight and flight.
Yeah, and I always say it's fun to trust your intuition and, look at the magic of life. Today I was walking, and I was listening to Bob Proctor, who's just amazing. And a lot of things in my ebook that I'll talk about, but Heart and Soul Fitness coming out, um, is based on, there's an area for that of what Mr. Proctor has spoken of in years about abundance. And, I don't claim to be an expert. It's a work in progress always, and but I was listening to things going, yeah, yeah, excited today. And I remember I stopped and, he made a comment about it coming from a divine intelligence too. And I looked up at this palm tree that honestly I see every day when I walk my dog. And I had this happen to me before in New York, but this was a little different to just today, the way it happened. And I looked up at it and I'm like, my God, I see you every day. You're beautiful. And I just had this moment. And I'm like, I don't care who's looking at me. I felt like crying. That tree was magnificent. And then all of a sudden I noticed there was three others lined up with it. And I thought, oh my God, So that simpleness, that innocent, my vibration went so high. I felt connected to the words. I know what I'm putting out is part of that is going to help others get to that place as well. And I'm pushing right along with you guys, in front of you, behind you, I'm in the middle of you. And I think that's part of us as being teachers too. We want to be a part of, always honor we're a student and a teacher, right? That's like, oh, somebody put that quote out. I don't remember who. And it can be fun. People
Yeah.
don't realize that it can really be fun evolving.
Yes. Yep. It doesn't have to be a tool to get rid of the yuck. It can be something that you get to explore who you are,
Yeah.
explore what this looks like in your life and how you're leaning into it.
And that tree made me feel big. It was
Yep.
just, I felt expanded in that moment. And it was just such a beautiful moment. And I
I
thought, I'm
love that.
grateful I have these silly little moments with palm trees and it's always trees, it seems like with me, but they're nature and they're rooted and they're connected. So, is it? And look at the movie Avatar, Mother Tree. Boing. I
Yep.
mean, that
Absolutely.
movie, within 5 minutes, I thought I was going to see a Blue People movie with my little child, with science fiction or something. And within 8 minutes, he looked at me, this is your stuff, mommy. And I'm like, and he goes, I mean, our stuff. And I'm like, even for him to say that sitting in this theater, in that first few minutes where you feel the bigness of this movie is not about blue people,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
like when you can feel that energy, that's what I love to share with people. And I know you're a very passionate teacher as well, that just want them to get it and just allow the feeling because it really will take you, you
Yep.
know.
Yep. I had a similar experience. It's funny, two different ways. But when we watched the movies Inside Out, when I watched either of those with my kids, I end up like I'm crying through the whole dang thing. I'm like, this is so much bigger than these characters on the screen. But there's so
Mhm.
many different movies.
And they're
Like,
absorbing it, right? They're
yeah,
absorbing it and they're getting it. And we didn't, I know I'm, mid 60s right now. And I'm like, I don't remember seeing stuff like that on TV, when I was a
Right.
kid watching it, so they're the evolution of, even some of that. I see some of the things my son would watch when he was little and he had the little third eye there. And I'd be like, oh my God, there's a third eye. I wouldn't have known what that was at his age then.
Yep.
Yeah. So you got to see the evolution is really there,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
pretty cool.
And I love the permission for it to happen in the little moments. Like you were talking about the palm tree. It's funny because right before we started recording this, I recorded a podcast about how burnt toast led to forgiveness in my morning. And it was like, so
Wow. Interesting. Okay. I'll make sure to watch that.
it's just this process of these little moments pile up and lead into big things. And I feel like your journey is a perfect example of that in listening to that intuition and leaning into that more. Um, do you have any experiences of maybe client experiences, of how you have witnessed others start listening to their intuition, like how that looks and how that feels, either from you witnessing it as a practitioner with them or their experiences they brought to you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think of one off the top of the head. I mean, I literally had just gotten off a call with someone who has lost her son only a matter of 4 months ago, and she decided she wanted to take a mediumship course because she felt it would help her feel closer to him. And I said, yes, it absolutely will. I said, but do you want to get that technical with things? It's an intense 8-week course. And she said, no, I'm ready. And we just came off the call before I got on here, and it was just so amazing watching her not even know I had set up a little reading for her to do for this week. Her first real one-on-one with someone with me on the call. We did it together. And I said, don't, I taught her how to hopefully not worry about what it means and worry about this. Just flow, just give the information. Flow. That's what I want you to practice today. Not you're got to be right or it has to make sense to you right now. And she really had no clue. And I knew a couple of the questions that the client had set the intention for. And the very first question was addressed to her husband in spirit. So the very first thing um, the person taking the class said was, as soon as I closed my eyes during the blessing, I saw um, no, she started to take us through the little preparation where you exhale, blow out a candle just to relax the client as well as prepare your sacred space to receive. And I always use the candle, blow out the candle, be careful on the exhale, right? Because after
Hmm.
about 30 seconds, you'll start to slow your nervous system down. I know you know that. But the
Absolutely.
candle thing is a good way because you don't want to blow out the candle and hit the curtain and you want to
That
blow out
visual
that
tool.
candle. Well, she said the first two times she said feather. And I knew she doesn't usually say that because we use the candle. And she kind of did a little very brief up, up. And then she said feather again for the second breath. And the third breath, she said the candle. Well, little did she know that the feather was a big sign for the client's spouse that he sends her from the spirit world. So I'm like wanting to burst, right? But I didn't want to interrupt her view, her visions. And so then she started going and going. And then we let it happen. And then I said, you have no clue, okay,
Right.
how good you did.
I
And we
love
got it.
that.
Yeah, we did. So it was so exciting to watch her go. I was almost thinking I was wrong. And I go, nothing's wrong. I don't care what there's no wrong. When you bless your experience and you're coming in with the purest of intention, spirit's not going to send wrong.
Yep.
It's really going to be how much you trust to bring the messages forth, as you know. And not everyone is going to reach the spirit world because, and in psychic energy or more intuitive energy, we could be picking up on their energy or, what the maybe the universe wants to bring in, not necessarily the things that mom or dad are going to bring in to show, remember this, and you know how that goes. But it was just so magical watching her go, oh my goodness, the feather really means something. And I'm like, yeah, so wait till you hear what the rest means. And it was just so beautiful. And
That's
it was
cool.
the excitement, but look at the thing that got her to that place, the loss of a son,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
just wanting to feel closer to him. But she does have a desire to help others, other families that have lost their kids too. And so I really think she will, because she sees. She's just
Yeah,
got to get that trust, which is
absolutely.
hopefully I'm creating that for her, space for her to do.
Absolutely. I love the notion of, I love how the nuggets within that story give us permission to care for ourselves through that journey, and the idea of we have to start trusting our own that inner dialogue, and in moments like that we have to trust that we can surrender that and not let our stuff get in the way. And I feel
Hmm.
like if we're, even if it's just on a individual, in my life I want to trust my intuition more, it becomes a process of not, I don't hear my intuition, it's a process of you do, you just get to slow down and listen to it. And that need for finding that peace in what that conversation is within you. And like you said, for some people it's connecting to the other side, for others it's connecting to the individual's energy, and for others it's universal or just simply within their self. That's
Hmm.
very cool. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Very
interesting.
cool.
You said it clearly. I'm just then going, yeah, I get that. That's so cool. That's the thing. I think people lose track on their own journey sometimes, that this is evolution of who we are. And there is a lot of distraction in the world,
Hmm.
and there can be around us personally, and it can be, it's definitely globally. And we just got to always, go to that center, because our spirit will always protect us. It'll always guide us. It will always, be that, like you say, slow down, allow yourself to be there. Allow yourself to have moments of, people say, I can't stop thinking. I say, you're not supposed to stop thinking. You're going to slow it down. Or, you're going to not even use the word control, use the word, I'm going to discipline my thought process. Then you become a disciple of it. And
Hmm.
there's the spiritual where it evolves. Because when you're a disciple of your thinking, you can constantly go, yeah, you're talking to yourself. We're always talking to ourselves no matter what. I mean, right? I mean, there's very few moments in your day where you're not talking in your own head,
Yep.
and as a species, I think people have lost the ability to be a disciple of that. And that's very sad. When people struggle and use a lot of terminology that sometimes is giving you a title. I know, I guess, feel to go here, like when people say about, ADD, I definitely respect that title. I'm about as ADD as they come, because intuitive, emotional people feel before they can think it,
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we're constantly going in. And so when we breathe slow and we slow our nervous system down, we can slow it down. But, when people will even say, well, you don't know what it's like, I'm like, oh, trust me, I do. I
Right.
barely got out of high school, graduating straight D's, literally. I've always been a oversensitive and over feeling things. I get it. But when I started meditating, all that started to change.
Hmm.
That it When I was becoming aware that I was slowing my thoughts down and actually reading and knowing what I read, it didn't take 10 times and still not sure. That was frustrating in school.
Yeah.
You know, that was a struggle. My whole, I got through, I got through. So, but, I don't know. That must have needed to be talked about today. Somebody's listening. And maybe not to be
Absolutely.
so hard on yourself, or to understand, and it's interesting, Karen, because I really feel it has to be said that, our kids cannot be thinking there's something wrong with them with these titles.
Hmm.
That's got to stop. They're
Yep.
constantly thinking there's something wrong with them. And then when they get old enough in their teens, they got an excuse not to be doing it right or good, or,
Right.
you know,
Right. Yeah.
that's something else Bob Proctor was talking about today. He had a young boy in the audience, and he said, in one of his workshops, and he said, he was struggling with a couple subjects, and he said, well, what do you want? And he goes, I want an A. And he goes,
Hmm.
well, so he recommended that the parent get a blank report card, which you could probably get on Google Docs or something nowadays, but back when he did this, it was a long time ago. And put in the grade you want and see it
Yep.
and feel it.
Yep.
And he got into I think when he had him come back on, he had done it and gotten in the mid 80s. I think he got right there at that, B minus A plus, kind of
Yep.
thing. But he was so happy because he was really not doing well in it.
Yeah.
And it was all about showing, imagine if that was done in schools with kids,
Yeah.
instead of thinking, okay, do this, because,
You
It'll
have to
help
fit into
you.
this. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I love the note. I within my own personal experiences, I have found that I have actually found a root of forgiveness of myself through understanding what maybe the ADHD mind looks like and
Hmm.
not letting it be a label, but letting it be a tool for a conversation as to understand how that shows up differently. And
Hmm.
the idea of, okay, this is just an experience that people are having that they get to nurture themselves through. And I found that it has created a really powerful understanding of my little one who is 8 and she just turned 8, and how we reference some of her experiences and shifting that dialogue where, okay, so this is a moment where you're feeling overwhelmed, and just the little nuances within that and how we get to change the way we approach her and helping her understand that you're not wrong, you're not broken, you just
Hmm.
experience things a different way, and that gets to be okay.
Yeah, I mean that's it right there. I mean, no wonder maybe this was because I know we didn't plan on talking about this, but it kind of
Right.
came, and it's like, yeah, that she should never have to think there's something wrong with her.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these kids think, well, they have this, and it's like they hear
Right.
you.
Right.
you know, they're absorbing that, and then they're going to walk around thinking there's something wrong with them, and that's what you do when something's wrong with you. Yeah, and yeah, it's just, I just, when you when you can visualize something and really feel the emotion, you could see where that could change so many
Yep.
outcomes for
Yep.
so many.
Yep.
And so, hugs to you for, and look at, you're giving birth to a child in that age. I mean, girl, they're more intuitive than the next one. I mean, each generation is,
Yeah, absolutely.
more spiritually aware when they come in and more intuitive. So yeah, that's a fast, they just need that tool to slow themselves down, and she's blessed to have you, I think, I'm sure.
It's funny because there's definitely times where it's not. I'm definitely more mom than I am the support and the practitioner to guide her with that, but we get there and we
Hmm.
have the tools to navigate within her lifestyle and the structure of what school looks like, and then also lean into different directions. So
Yeah. And
it's
when you see how the
interesting
kids in
adventure.
spirit learn, I've seen it in channelings and they show me, and it's like they slow down, and then they go up into their higher frequencies, and then they'll download it in and put it out. And it's interesting because when we think of how kids are, even I remember me like having to memorize things. I couldn't, it was like Greek to me 10
Yep.
times in, I'd be like, I can't remember it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why can't I remember it?
Yep.
And I was, even that long ago, it didn't work for me. And I'm sure there's millions and millions and so we have to adjust to the way that it works,
Yeah.
even if it's putting on some maybe low, high frequency music or something where their energy field will start to slow down. Donald's Journey to the Tree. I don't know if you still have a copy I could always send the link to you.
Yeah. I would love
That's a
that.
great one for eight
Yeah.
years old. I mean, you
Yep.
just go into the tree and trees again.
Absolutely.
Darn trees.
Right. Well, it's funny because we were this morning, one of our favorite things is brown noise. And that
Is
feels brown noise. It's like white noise, only
what?
it's lower. And
Mm-hmm.
like Ava loves that when we listen to the car. And she
Mm-hmm.
has a couple of meditations she listens to. So I would love that link because I will add that to her list.
Oh yeah,
And
I'll send it to you. I think you did it when you were pregnant, didn't you?
I think so. That would,
It's been around, Racer's 24, so it happened to me when he was in my womb, so it's got to be close to 25 years now. Oh
right.
my God.
I would say I did with Leah, who is my oldest, who is 18, but
Yes.
I'm not so sure about Ava, who's 8, but yeah, absolutely. And it's
Hmm.
just like you said, even just changing the sounds around us to help to balance out that energy.
Yeah,
Very,
it's
very cool.
beautiful. Well, we just helped a bunch of people with their children
I know,
and
right?
themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no energy fields don't know age. So,
Yep.
you know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So you have a new book coming out, as
Mhm.
well as you have some in the past. How many books do you have out total?
And I'm looking at the two of three right now. So I have well, Life, Death, and In Between Perspectives from the Other Side. That's been out for a few years. It got re-edited and it's actually getting posted back up on Amazon. But I do have it available on my website with another private publisher. But it will be back on Amazon. And then I have, Discovering the Divine in You, which is a little pamphlet kind of book. And it has audio as well. And then I have Donald's Journey to the Tree, which is recorded as well, but also as a little children's book. That one's sitting right here. Donald, let's call it Donald. There's little Donald.
That's
And
cool.
and he just goes through the tree and the leaves are all the chakra colors.
Yeah.
And then I have, what else do I have? Then I have the one coming out on August 28th, Life, Death, Heart and Soul Fitness, Seeking Self, Spirit, and Success. So it kind of takes you through a 2-week cycle of doing your morning, midday, and evening affirmations, mantras, slow breathing, just moments to slow you down. I tell people in the morning, have your coffee and listen to it, or go through your ebook because it is an ebook. There is a bonus audio on launch day that gets sent to, and I'm actually going to be putting together a monthly group for it. Probably will start closer to the end of this year. I got to get it going where I'm just going to do a monthly, who's ever, purchased it. Actually, we can go on, we'll do a little chat on it, answer some questions and go into a meditation to, maybe fine tune something you're trying to manifest or heal and all that. So it's simplifying it, but it's going to go across the board from yourself, your personal to your, where you want to, your career, your job, whatever you want to call it, and where you are, and just hopefully to slow you down and clear the slate a little for you so you can trust your intuition, get comfortable with your intuition guiding you, because it will. And we both know when you slow yourself down, you always, if you put something out there, it comes back.
Yep.
I find it's 3 hours, 3 seconds, 3 hours, 3 days, no longer. Otherwise, you're probably congesting
Right.
where you're not letting it in. And that magic 3. So yeah, so that launches on the 28th of August. Of course, it'll be on Amazon for the 99 cents. So everybody should take advantage of that download that day, because then it will go to regular price, which off the top of my head, I can't remember what my marketing person we agreed on, but
That's okay.
either
That's why you have a marketing
14.95 or
person.
24.95. I'm sorry, but it's in there somewhere. And but launch day, the 28th of August. Get on there. The link will be on my website, innerlightteaching.com, all my social media. And just as you know, I've been having issues with my being locked out. So I'm not relying on my Facebook page for that link. So Instagram, website, it'll be right on the homepage. And my LinkedIn, all the others, it'll be all over. And I'll probably go on TikTok and do something. But yeah, just take advantage of that day because it's really, I think it's going to help people. I'm excited about it. And it's about the
Very
heart and the
cool.
soul, bring it together to be more connected, more fit with it, and let it and see where it goes in your physical world. And honestly, in 2 weeks, you will know, you will see differences. And then you can just continue the cycle or add your own stuff. Everybody, I say, trust your intuition. If your intuition tells you a mantra, trust it, use
Yeah,
it,
absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
it,
That's
it,
cool.
that's part of it. So yeah, thank you for letting me put that out there.
Absolutely. And I'll share for those listening to the podcast on that launch day. I will share that on my Instagram story so that way people can
Thank
connect
you.
to it. That way
Greatly
they know.
appreciated.
Very cool. So do you have like, are these all books that you have been interested in, like you knew from the beginning that you were going to share, or do you find that they have developed and shown up?
Definitely could have never imagined I'd write all these books. Could not have
Very
ever
cool.
put it in my wheelhouse. And as of course, being someone who came from what I would say, if I had a title back in the day, ADD would have been the title.
Mhm.
Um, I don't say because there's ADD and then there's ADHD, right? I'm not really the hyper. Isn't there a difference? I should maybe ask.
There is, as far as from some of the research I did to help understand myself and my child, they do have It's more so all under the blanket of ADHD, and then there's different variations of it. And like you
Hmm.
said, there's the inattentive versus the hyper. And so the inattentive would be more like you said, how you would be categorized when you were younger, because
Yeah,
it
I was
wasn't hyper, it
definitely
was
the
just not.
inattentive. I'd be like, where's she looking now? My friends would tell me when we would play kickball and we were 10, 8 years old, there she goes again. And I remember, I'd be looking at this guy going, stop. I don't know who you are. Leave me alone. I don't want to hear voices right now. I mean, that's what I dealt with. And my friends would be going, there she goes again. Who's she talking to? I'm like, you never told me that.
Right, right.
You told me it might have helped me a little. I don't know. So we laugh, but tension, poop, gone. But to think that I've written a few books, recorded a lot of meditations, are all on my website, is just kind of no, I did. I
Right.
read my book sometimes, and my book's on Audible too. My Life, Death, and In Between
Okay.
Perspectives from the Other Side. That's on Audible, and sometimes I listen to it and go, "You said that?" So you know what? It's funny because I just don't even. That's yeah, I did. I'm the one
Yep.
that wrote it. So but I kind of laugh and go, when you're altered or when you're in that altered state of channeling, and you don't even know you really are. It's amazing what will come out. And,
Yep.
what I mean? So whether you're an artist, a songwriter, a writer, a speaker, just trust. I remember
Yep.
watching Carolyn Mace talk about. She was doing a lecture and she was going to do, not to put myself in her category yet, but
It
she's amazing. But
is.
she said she went prepared to do something, and all of a sudden it was Saint Teresa of whatever Avila. I'm probably
Oh,
saying
yes, of Avalon.
in
Yep.
this and that story, and she said it just kind of came out of her.
Yep.
And she to watch her talk about that, she was like, that was a whole book, and it's a great book that she wrote um, about consciousness and all the
Yeah, I love her
archetypes, and
stuff. Yep.
she's just amazing. So it's like, wow, look at that. She just knew something was coming out and she didn't even understand it, but she let it, and next thing you know, she wrote the book on it.
Yep.
So the book is amazing. So all
That's
started
cool.
with a lecture. So I think trusting, what is writer's block? You're in your head too much. You're not letting it flow.
Hmm.
What is when you look at the these, I won't use Taylor Swift because she's kind of standing in a league of her own, but when they come out with their album, and they say it's from their diary and all their emotions and their pain and their heartbreak, and it gets to the number one on the charts for how long, and then all of a sudden they got to do it again, and then they're because
Yep.
you can't just redo that. It's not intellect, it was emotional.
Yeah,
When they poured
exactly.
their heart out, and then somebody else made it go together with, or they did with music. I mean, that's what happened. So imagine if they didn't get so hard on themselves that they can't do that again, but
Right.
go into where they are in their journey and express that emotion. It moves blocks.
Yeah.
And when
It's
you trust your intuition, that's what you're actually doing, letting it flow and moving through the block like water instead of sledgehammer. That's a metaphor I just got.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's funny. We have the whole visual that pops into my head when you say water versus sledgehammer. We have a creek that flows down the back side of our house, and we had a tree that fell right over it. And my husband and our neighbor was like, "Well, we're gonna have to get back there, and we're gonna have to cut it up and remove it." And it felt like this big task because it was right across the creek. And then we had all that rain on that Friday, and the rain completely washed it away. So it's like that
Oh,
notion, complete visual of how that
mm,
honoring that flow of where you are versus where you feel you have to be
that's
really
beautiful.
opens things
And
up.
like you said, right there in black and white, there it was. And that tree was not light, I'm sure. So
No,
the whole metaphor is so powerful. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
very cool. And it's that self-forgiveness piece and that slowing down and that breathing. If you had one tip to offer people as to where to start listening to their intuition, what would it be?
I think you kind of just said it. Begin with your breath. You know, begin with wanting to, and maybe stating that every day, every night when you lay your head on the pillow. I am open to trusting my intuition and expressing through that. And then slow your breathing down whenever you can, especially if you're someone dealing with anxiety and stuff, because you know exhale like you're blowing out that candle and being careful, one of my favorite little ways. And you actually, within 3 breaths, can start to feel the difference.
Hmm.
And if people practice that, they just start clearing, the log goes,
Absolutely.
and if they could take that with them and practice their breath, I think, it'll show it to them and it'll slow them down enough to get those intuitive knowings and feelings and to know that this is not supernatural or unnatural. It's very natural to feel, to hear the voice, to know the feeling, to see the vision, to trust you should be writing something down and making it more
Yep.
because you're an expresser of light, and energy, and it's going to keep moving if you let it.
Absolutely.
So
Very cool.
hopefully that's
Very cool.
we can take that with them.
Yep. And I love how you give them permission for it to show up how it does for them. Like you said, whether it's writing, whether it's is connecting to the other side, whether it's artwork, whether it's
Hmm.
sharing a notion with a friend. I love that notion that it gets to look
Yeah, let
what it
it
works
be.
for them. Yep.
We're all in some way the inner vision or the inner screen is going to do something. I said, can't you imagine a red apple? I've had people say no. Like, all right, well, close your eyes, taste the apple, take a moment. Can you taste the apple? Yes. Everybody gets like, and then I can see it now.
Yep.
That's something I've felt done in meditation with people trying to understand into their intuitive nature. And it's just fun keep it simple, keep it like a child, be in awe like a child with it,
Yep.
because it will help you so
Absolutely.
much.
Very cool. Very cool. So, as we wrap up our visit today, I would love for you to take a moment to share specific details so we can kind of clump it together in case people haven't written it down as to where the date your book launches and where they can find it.
Thank you. So, Heart and Soul Fitness, Seeking Self, Spirit, and Success will be launching August 28th. It will be on Amazon. The link for the launch will post the day of, and it will be on my website, innerlightteaching.com. I know you said you would share it on your Instagram. I'll be sharing it on mine, LinkedIn, all my social media, Twitter, and Facebook. Of course, it will be as long as Facebook lets me on. Right now, I'm on Beth Lynch, but I'm not on Inner Light Teachings. So yeah, just mark the day and know and look for it. And I think between you and me, and I appreciate you so much, putting that out there as well, because it's the day to get it for an extremely reasonable launch day price and bonus gift. And then look for the monthly group that I'm going to put together to help people stay, fit.
Absolutely. Very cool. I love it. So, any last thoughts or expressions or anything before we?
Just I guess the word trust comes to me. Like everybody should just trust that it's okay, it's going to be okay, and you can be okay. And maybe somebody's needing to hear that right now. It's just something.
Absolutely.
And, I'm grateful, for you having me on and sharing this energy with you. And I love watching what you're doing and how you're helping people. And, um, just know that I like to say that to you. You should be
Very
proud of
cool.
yourself.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Perfectly
And
unique.
right? Absolutely. And I appreciate you being here. And admittedly, I came into this with some anxiety thinking, how am I having her on my podcast? And that notion of trust, getting into it and being like, it's all going to flow and I don't have to have it scripted and being here and
No,
just
listen,
appreciating.
you're a great host. Let that go out your window. I don't care. Trust me. Who I've done please, I've done podcasts where they script and it's not the same energy. And this was
Yeah,
just fun and light. And we went to places we didn't have anything planned. And we touched on some very serious stuff. So it's helping
absolutely.
somebody that's going to turn it on and go, maybe they don't have to be so frustrated or feel so hopeless about something, whether it's their own meditation or trust or their child's, energy. And oh my God, they were too, yeah. They were.
Absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah. I think we're gonna it's gonna be beautiful to help people, and you're a great host. So know that.
Well, thank you. And I encourage everybody to reach out to all of Beth Lynch's places and follow her and reach out for her classes and her books because she's a really great resource for connecting with your spirit and your intuition and finding a new way to do that. So
Thank
very
you.
cool. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, I think we're good. So I hope everybody enjoys their day and has a uniquely beautiful week. And reach out if you have any questions or thoughts or experiences that align with us. Hey guys, don't forget to check the show notes for all the links that we talked about, as well as a reminder that any of the information shared within my podcast or any of my content is for spiritual enlightenment and educational purposes only. If you have any physical or mental health concerns, please reach out to a medical professional and know that your free will is your biggest superpower and you get to continue celebrating your uniquely beautiful self.